And ladies and gentlemen, here we have Mr. Matt Kendema. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing fantastic here in the US.
Here in the US. And where were you before?
I was actually in Tokyo, Japan for the past 5 years.
Whew. We definitely gonna get into that story because actually one of my college classmates, shout out to Sylvia, Sylvia Simpson, she's over there now. I think she's in Okinawa, but she's teaching. So I'm just starting to see more and more friends. I got a fraternity brother over there. Shout out to my boy Peter Commodore. He's over there. He's all over though. He's like Abu Dhabi and all these other places. And people keep tapping me on the shoulder like, "Hey, you should do it." And it's people that look like you and me. So I'm like, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe.
get those melanated travelers going.
Yeah, I'll hit you up when that time comes. But enough about that. First question for you: Who is Mac Kendema?
Wow, that's a powerful, deep question. I don't want to be here for 30 plus years to explain who I am, but um, I'll keep it really short. I'm passionate about language, creativity, video games, and I also like community, right? And
Mm.
so I think those are the three things that I'm really interested about.
Okay, so I'm a gamer too. So what are you currently playing?
So right now, I really like JRPGs. I haven't had too much time to actually like play like uh like AAA games,
Mm-hmm.
but I do work with it's called the Melanated Game Kitchen. So shout out. And what they do is that they have a bunch of, people of like melanated people of descent, from the African diaspora
Mm-hmm.
come in for 2 weeks. They're online and they make a game for the culture, by the culture. And so I've been playing a lot of the games that are made by them.
Oh, nice, nice. You're gonna have to hook me up with that. Can I get in on that?
Yeah, 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 for sure.
Okay, I'll see if I can squeeze that in my schedule. I need to play with some more black gamers. That's always fun. It's funny you mentioned JRPGs. I just bought one. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, and I can see it. I just bought it on. I play on Xbox, and I do have a
Hmm.
gaming computer, but I don't play on it. Don't ask. Um, but yeah, JRPGs are fun. It's an action RPG. I don't like turn
Hmm.
based. I'm an action guy. But all right. Where did your love for language come from?
So, so my background is that my mom or my parents are Liberian, right? And so they came over from Liberia to, to escape the Civil War. And, in the beginning, they would teach me like Liberian English, right? And so for me, being an American born, just hearing that different language is just like, oh, you guys don't talk like how my teachers talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the schools I went to were very diverse. So, we had kids who were like Mexican, India, Somalia, and then hearing their language, it's
Mm.
just, I was exposed to it, right? So it's just interesting in general. But the thing that really got me interested was, of course, anime, manga, and JRPGs.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Y'all, if you're watching your anime without subs, you're not watching anime. Okay?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Gotta watch it raw, raw. People were like, "Oh, dub or sub." I'm like, raw.
Yo, man. I know we are nerding out on some of y'all right now, but that's the thing. I love anime. I get upset when they don't have the original language because those
Mhm.
characters, man, it's just it hits different. It can completely change the way you view characters, and just the Japanese voices. They are so passionate. Like it just like I don't they're just so passionate, man. I just love it, man. But I only can watch it now that I'm older. I can only watch it when I'm really like not
Focused.
tired. Yeah, I got to be
Mm-hmm.
focused because sometimes the words go by so fast cuz there's a lot of dialogue in there. But that's funny, man. Okay. So, borderless translations.
Yes.
How did this come about for you? Tell everybody what that is and how that came about for you.
Yeah, so Borderless Translations is my translation company that I started about 2 years ago. So initially we're based out in Tokyo, but then I recently started a LLC here in Minneapolis back in January. So we're doing so far we've had entertainment focused, right? So
Okay.
we've been doing commercials, documentaries, and hopefully later in the year we'll move more into indie games. And
Oh,
so
nice.
how we started from this was basically, I guess let me take you back real quick. And
Sure.
so in 2017, I used to be an IT consultant, but I was making good money, I had friends and family, but there was just something that was kind of missing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would be studying Japanese on my own, taking the national Japanese exam, but I kind of hit like a bottleneck in my language studies.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, you know, what are you really passionate about, language? Are you going to take the leap to go to Japan and, break that barrier down? And I said, okay, yeah. So I quit my job, told my friends I'm out, and and I left to go to language school for 2 years.
Whoa. Okay, wait. First of all, for those of you out there listening, thank you again for joining us for International Black Man Day. You mentioned something very, very, very pivotal, and it's funny. This has been coming up over the past couple weeks, just in conversations in general. You said you had a career before and you were making good money. Um, you don't have to put a number to it, but it wasn't. You weren't fulfilled. You weren't fulfilled. You
Correct.
had something you wanted to find your passion. So I wanted to stop there first because I know that we go through that. We all
Mm,
go through that. Like you're just doing something, you may be making ends meet or exceeding the making
mm-hmm.
ends meet thing, but sometimes that's not enough. And that's why we also want to encourage y'all, just do some self-discovery. What do you love? What are you passionate about? And is there a way for you to turn that into a career for yourself? There probably is a way. There probably is a way, more than likely. But you mentioned something else. And I always like to have this conversation, especially with people with their own businesses, because on social media and stuff like that, they show you the glamorous side, but nobody ever
Yes.
shows you the work that it took to get there. So during your transition, when you quit your job, what did you do? When you made that decision to say, "Hey, I'm gonna leave here and go do this," what
Mm-hmm.
preparations did you make first?
So, I mean, number one was money, right? Make sure, but I'm dead serious though. A lot of people just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go out there, make it on my own,
I'm
and
glad
they
you
can
said
do
that.
it,
That's
but
why I
it's
laughed.
tough. It's hard. It's hard. I don't know how people be doing that. So, I think what was most important besides, the budgeting, was okay, how can I make a sustainable life?
Yeah.
And what is my goal? And what's my time frame? Because what will happen is that if you don't have a time frame set up for your goal, you will get you'll get stuck. I'll guarantee it. Because what will happen is that if your Japanese is not on point, it is very hard for you to break out of that English teaching mode that a lot of people get into.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Okay, so money, save your money, y'all,
Yep.
and have a plan. Save your money, have a plan. It sounds so simple, but so many people don't do it. You'll be surprised. I've done it myself, but I learned from my past mistakes. And people get mad at me and they fuss at me when I don't want to do certain things with
Mm-hmm.
them. And I'm like, yo, if we don't have money and a plan, that's not gonna work for me. The days of me struggling, the days of me being in the grocery line and checking my bank account to make sure I can pay for it are over, and I'm not going back.
Yeah.
So, and I know what it's like, when you start your own thing, and it's up to you to bring in the money. If you didn't do what you
Mm-hmm.
needed to do, then on the 1st and the 15th, nothing is coming in. That is not
Correct.
a good feeling, and it is scary. It is scary, and we ain't even gonna get into taxes. So okay, you said you went to language school.
Yes.
What was that like?
It was nice, to be honest, because the for I knew that if I really wanted to start a business in Japan, right? Because my dream is to write and produce my own video game, right? And so that was like one of the goals I had, is like starting a company that's able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew I needed language in order to communicate with, the Japanese staff to even, be effective. So that's why I chose language school. But basically, I went to intensive language school for 2 years. It was 4 hours of study Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oof.
so, yeah, I know. It was, yeah, when you on paper, you're like, oh, I can do this. This is, but like in reality, you're like, oh, this is, oh,
Yeah,
it's like Jesus, Jesus.
language is tough. Just from the years I took Spanish, like the only rule that I know, and you tell me if this holds true, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like I took Spanish in middle school, high school, and college.
Mm.
And now I work with a high Hispanic population at the school that I teach at, and I really wish I had someone that I could have spoken with. Now I feel like I need Rosetta Stone because I have the bare minimum. I know all the no words. I'll say that.
Hmm.
And but
Like,
but
what'd you say to me? Yeah, I know that word.
yeah, and what really gets me is the speed. Like
Yes.
if someone speaks a little bit slower, I can understand it. But they speak so quickly, it's
Hmm.
like, oh shoot, like Spanish goes quick. And I'm like, I don't know what you just said. So I'm like, can you say that again? Slow down. And then they're
Like
shocked.
one more time.
Yeah, yeah. So is that you still find that true that if did you ever have a period where you weren't using it and then you kind of lost it?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about language school is that you are with everybody else who is also learning Japanese. And so I was, my class was mostly filled with so there's levels 1 through 7, and then level 1 through 3 is like beginner, and usually there's Americans, there's Koreans, there's Chinese, there's people from the Philippines. And so a lot of people, our main, common language is Japanese. So we all start at, a basic level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then once you move past level 3, then the Americans kind of disappear, and then they like go back, and then it's just us and it's just us and the other Asians. So it's like the Koreans, the Chinese, and they have a leg up already because the Chinese, they have similar characters as Japanese characters, so they already know it. So they're like, oh yeah, this is good. And the same thing with the Koreans. They also learn Japanese at an early age
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's called Hangul is their written language, and that's also taken from Chinese characters. So they kind of have a leg up, and us Americans kind of have to just learn everything from scratch. But to answer your question, yes. I typically, in order to keep my skills up to speed, I usually do translation exercises every day, at least an hour a day, depending on my schedule.
Okay. Okay. Wow. You got me thinking about the characters. Oh, that's great. You know, I've been thinking about getting another tattoo, and I've always wanted Japanese characters. And somebody said something that made me stop. And I was like, "Yeah, I understand you looking it up on the internet, but how do you know that's what that actually means?" And I was like, "Oh,
Show it to me. I be. It's funny
yeah.
because the other day someone had like a Japanese T-shirt, right?
Uh oh.
And like my friend was like, "Hey Mac, what does that say?" And I was looking at the shirt. I was like, "What do you mean? Can't you read it?" And because I'm so used to the Japanese, I just like, why can't you read this? What is?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like authentic. Yeah, I was like, okay, okay.
I'm gonna literally do that because I don't want something on my arm that says like kitty cat or something when I wanted to say lion or something. So yeah, because I one thing I do know, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know it's so when it comes to the written language,
Hmm.
um, how do I want to say this? Never mind. I'm trying to think about like how the characters work or what the premise of the characters are because I know if they're off
Hmm.
angle, they could probably mean something different. I don't know what distinguishes one from another, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no, I can. I think I understand.
yeah,
But if you're referring to like the Japanese characters, so kanji, right?
yeah.
That's okay. Um, so basically, each kanji can be as simple as like one stroke, right? It could be like one line, and this one line just means ichi, which is like it means one, literally.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two strokes, and that means like two, right? And there's three strokes, and there's means three. But that's like that's very simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the more advanced kanji, they are actually made out of the basic kanji. So the different parts of the kanji, like you can break down the more advanced kanjis into the basic kanji. And so
Mm.
once you look at it, right, even though there are similarities, right, they're not one to one. So how they're broken down is different. So it's like a puzzle if you think of it like that.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm definitely gonna send it to you. Thank you for that quick lesson. Sidebar, funny question. Uh I would love for you to film no, I would love for you to film this because I see this guy on YouTube that does it. I think he's white. He's overseas. I forgot what country he was in, but he spoke their language fluently.
Mm-hmm.
So when he walks into places, he orders like his food in their language and everyone's like so like in shock and awe. So have you ever done that before?
Yeah, I guess every day, I guess.
Like, how does this black guy know my language?
He's like, have you ever ordered food? I'm like, I was there for five years, bro.
You know what I mean, man.
I know.
What type of?
I know.
He doesn't eat, lady. He doesn't eat.
So for I think in the beginning, right? It's yes. So they're usually always impressed with your Japanese because they're like, wow, I can't believe you can speak the language. But that's also like a double-edged sword sometimes because what will happen is that like in the beginning my Japanese was growing. They're like, it's good. And then they started talking at that native speed. They're like, I'm like, ooh. I was like, I wasn't ready.
Hold on, slow down. Y'all left me.
I was like, I'm sorry.
Everybody does that in every language. The kids I teach do that. They're like, oh, Mr. Wilson, you know Spanish? And I'll be like, sí, un poquito. And then they'll be like, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, sit down. Sit down, because you knew what you were doing. I told you my skills were limited. But now, have you ever said the wrong thing by mistake?
Oh, all the time. They're very like similar words. Good one example is like I was in like language school and it was hot in the classroom, right? So I asked the teacher, I was like, oh, like maro, what do I say? Oh, maro agete kudasai. Like I said, agete kudasai, which means so what I wanted her to do was open the window, right? And she said, "Oh, dekinai." Like she was like, "I can't do it." I was like, "What do you?" I was like, and I got mad. I was like, "What do you mean you can't do it?" And she says, "Ageru." I was like, she was like, "Agemasen." And so, "Ageru" means give. And I was asking her, "Can you please give me the window?" And she's like, "No, I can't."
This belongs to the university.
She's like, "I can't." But what I meant was, "Akete kudasai." Which is open. So that's one situation where it's just like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, it was a teachable moment, right? But I'm happy it was in the classroom. But there's been other cases where I've been talking to people and I've missaid one syllable. And then it was just chaos for the conversation.
Because they're like, what'd you say about my mama? Yeah. So how much, I think it's, my inexperience is shown, I think it's Chinese, but I'm not sure it's Japanese. What about your inflection or your tone? Does that change the meaning?
So tonal language would be more for Chinese.
Okay.
Japanese is relatively, I guess, flat. But there are cases where you can say one was low and high versus high and low. Example would be like, I might be wrong on this, but it's like ame, which is like rain, and there's ame, which is like candy, and that could be the other way around. But depending on your inflection, it can change some things.
Okay, I was curious about that because I know you. That's why when I tell kids about language and I teach English, I'm like, your tone is important across, all language barriers because some languages like us, it displays, it's an emotional thing.
Yes.
Like when we get loud or use a different tone. Well, what's wrong or what's going on or why are you being a smart behind? And then in other languages, you're saying something completely different that means something completely different. That is interesting, man.
Exactly.
I'm going to get back to your business, but you did mention something. This video game that you want to make, do you still want to do this?
Yeah. So I'm actually since last year I've been working on a visual novel. I don't know if you've ever heard of a visual novel before.
I have.
Oh, okay. Then I wanted to,
The audience doesn't know what that
JRPG.
is. Tell them.
Oh, okay. So
Somebody
a
doesn't know.
visual a visual novel basically is a text-based game. So it's just images and text, right? And the main feature of it is that you have branching paths. So during the story, if you pick a choice, it'll take you to a different story branch, and your ending might be different. And
Hmm.
so it's pretty easy to make actually. So
Good to
I'll
know.
actually I'll tell you right now. So what I use is Python,
Okay.
and then also RenPy, which is a visual novel development software. It's free to use, so you can download it, and there's lots of different examples, and it's pretty easy to pick up.
Okay. Dope, dope, dope. I love those. I actually have a couple of games. I ain't gonna shout the company out because they're not paying us. But those of you who are gamers, you're on PlayStation or PC or Xbox, there are games out there like that. And they're fun. They're really fun. There's a Batman one that is super fun. There's a little bit of action in there. You got to press
Oh,
some
okay.
buttons, but it's great to just it draws you more into the story and more into the characters, and it's more immersive than other games at times because you're
Mm-hmm.
just so focused on the dialogue and the decision making and the outcomes, and then you get to play it again and say, all right, last time I slapped this person in the face, well, I'm gonna shake their hand this time, and it takes you down a whole nother path. Like, I love that, man. That is dope. If you ever need some voice actors, holla at me. I got,
Oh
got
no,
a few
I
here.
will, I will, I will. I definitely want to, especially with the Melanated Game Kitchen. I'm all for trying to, get people experience, and you don't need any experience, just whatever talent you want to bring. We create a team and try to get things done. But yeah, I am still writing a game, and I'm hoping to finish it by the end of this year. So I already have the art done, the story. It's in Japanese, English, and Spanish,
Okay.
and then I have to make the sound. So that's the only thing I have left.
Can you tell us the name of it yet?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's more like a test just to make sure that I can do it. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not a very long game.
Okay.
So it's called Cage Sprint. Yeah.
Okay. Exclusive. Exclusive on Black Man Day. I love that. I love that you were able to take your love of language and then say, all right, I can do some other things outside of my career with this, like
Yes.
making a video game, and you focus on language. That is super dope, man. Now, you said something in regards to your line of work that really resonated with me, and it's
Mhm.
another thing that I do that kind of upsets people, but I'm gonna I'm gonna sum it up. So you said you have to be the person who learns everything so you can hand it off to someone more experienced.
Yes.
So break that down for people. What does
So
that mean?
so as a entrepreneur, it's just that you can hire people to do a job, right? But no matter what expertise they have, you need to be able to explain to them what they need to do. But if you've never done it before, or you just like you're not knowledgeable about it, you you won't be able to explain it to them.
Yep.
And even if you try to, the product that you envisioned will not come out how you thought it should be. So typically what will happen is that like for example, I needed to make subtitles, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've never made subtitles in my life before. Like just never even like just I have no idea. And so I talked to someone else who who did translation, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know subtitles." I was like, "Ah, yes." Like, okay, hold on. So I was like, "Okay, YouTube." And then like I tried it out on a couple of videos, then I learned it, then I taught it to them, and
Mm-hmm.
then now they're my go-to person, right? Because their expertise is in Japanese,
Mm-hmm.
but they just didn't have that technical skill set. And so that's one example where it's like, okay, even though you're going to be the main point person, right? I
Yep.
still need to learn it, talk to the client about their requirements, and then teach you exactly how they want it.
Yep. And I'm gonna tell y'all something. I haven't. Thank you for sharing that too. That's a I for me personally, and for you obviously because you just said that story. I think that is a very big part of being an entrepreneur and vitally important. because I've had a lot of jobs over the years. And one of the things that's an issue with management at times is when the
Mm.
employees feel like you can't even do my job.
Mm-hmm.
And I've experienced that before. I went to go return something at GameStop and they had a brand new manager, brand new, never seen this guy before. And he didn't know how to process my return. He had to wait for another employee to come in. So I had to go home and wait 3 hours for the next person to come in to get that return done.
You had to
Um,
wait.
yeah, he didn't know how to process my return. This is the Xbox 360 days. I had the
Mm-hmm.
red rings of death. Um, but that kind of stuck with me, man. And I don't ever want anyone who works with me or works for me to even have in the back of their mind that I can't do what I
Mm-hmm.
brought you on to do. I might not be as good as you, but I'm definitely gonna learn it because at the end of the day, you can't depend on people to be with you forever. So if you have someone like I paid someone on Fiverr to build my website
Mm-hmm.
for my podcast, but as she was building, I was going in, looking, clicking on stuff, playing with stuff. So I pretty much know how to do it too. But I ain't got time for that. And
No, yeah,
yeah, it
exactly.
ain't my thing. But like, had she up and quit, or not, well, she didn't quit, but she finished.
Mm-hmm.
Now I don't have to reach back out to her because I'm like, all right, I have a enough of an understanding to know I can do this, and this. Because what you don't want is to not know it, and then the
Yes.
person you need to do it decides they not doing it no more.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's
Mm-hmm.
like Ed. That's why I think that is so important. You don't ever want anyone to hold something over your head like that or make you feel like that. And some of y'all might think that that's petty, but that's the thing. That is really a thing. Like even if you can't do it as good as them, you need
Mm-hmm.
to know how to do it and like you said, how to explain it because that's even more important. If you want your vision to get across, I think that's where people butt heads when you hire
Yes.
someone to do something and doesn't come out the way that you wanted it. Well, did you really explain it the way that you needed to? That's what you got
Mm-hmm.
to think about. So I was just really glad that you highlighted that. What keeps you motivated to do the work that you do?
I guess it's definitely the community, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I guess it depends. I guess I'll say it depends. So, I guess for me, in terms of borderless translations, the business,
Yeah.
it's something that I've just been always passionate about. I'm always meeting new people, and also seeing the final product, right? So recently we started doing a documentary on women's soccer here, or not here in Japan, over there in Japan, right? And it's a 4 episode docu series, and it's been a 4 month long project, and it's one of the biggest projects we've worked on
Congratulations.
since, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And so, and then seeing the final product, right? It's just so amazing,
Yeah.
right? So I think that's a big motivator for me to like keep it going, right? Because it's like, oh, I get to learn about women's, like I would have never learned about women's soccer without this documentary. The one before that, I did a documentary on hand drawn animation.
Oof.
And basically, what it was is that the team interviewed, famous Japanese artists who worked on like Studio Ghibli, big animation projects where it was all hand drawn,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a dying art style because everything is going
Digital.
digital.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was interesting because I was like, oh, I get to like listen to these Japanese people, like artists, the interviews translated, and I'm like, I would have never known about this if I didn't take this project. So that's definitely a big motivator for me.
Just that inside track to learn more about the other things that either one you didn't know about or two
Mm-hmm.
things that you're already interested in, man. That's dope, man. I love hand drawn animations, y'all. I'm nerding out right now. I'm thinking about King of Fighters 13 is a video game, a
Ooh.
fighting game, and the characters were hand drawn. It is the best looking 2D fighting game I've ever seen, and I really wish we could have got what's the game? Oh my gosh, Capcom versus SNK 3. Make it
Mm.
happen. If somebody out there hears it, hand drawn, none of this 3D blocky 2D stuff. I would like hand drawn character, just like King of Fighters 13. But sorry, I had a moment when you said hand drawn. I was like, wait a
I
minute.
hear you.
Yeah.
It's just something about hand drawn animation that really shows the passion of the artist, right?
Yep.
And I think that's why a lot of people really like manga,
Yep.
right? And so like you see the character, you see how it's like displayed, and then you see the anime adaptation, and you're like it's good, but it doesn't like speak to your soul as hand drawn would have done.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. I agree, man. So I want to dive deeper into little bit more into your mentality. So for
Mm-hmm.
anyone out there thinking about taking a leap, so you ended up in Japan. So
Yes.
now for those out there like me, I'm comfortable in the US. Been here all my life, up and down the East Coast, moved around, but I know the language, I know the people, I know the laws, the rules, and stuff like that. So moving to a new country can be a bit jarring because you're starting all the way over. Like some of the stuff will translate over and some of the stuff won't. So,
Mm-hmm.
after you finish school, what made you decide to stay and what were some of the things going through your mind as you were going through this? Obviously it was a little easier for you because you knew some of the language. So
Yes. I think it was so while I was studying, right? After about, I was a year and a half into it, or almost done with it, I ended up getting a job at Square Enix. You know Square Enix,
oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I was a community manager for them,
Wow.
for one of their mobile games, and I was in charge of their social media for that game. And I did that for about a year. And then afterwards, then that's when I started Borderless Translations, because the project ended, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I think there's two, maybe there's a lot of different factors to be honest, but I'm gonna go back to your goal, right? Why are you there, right?
Yeah.
What is it that you wanted to do, and what is the time frame that you gave yourself, right? And right around when I ended my contract at Square Enix, I was 3 years in, and I was like, I have 2 more years left,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I was like, I don't want to end my journey at 3 years without actually accomplishing what I wanted to do, right? I had a great experience, made good community, but it's still, I hadn't hit my goal. And so I was like, I need to reevaluate, right?
Right.
So I reevaluated everything. I took my experience from Square Enix, okay, how can I improve my translation ability? How can I improve the way I do work? How can I just literally just completely reset everything about myself and was like, okay, what's holding me back? What are my strengths? And how can I cultivate those skills in order to reach my goal?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so since then, I just took off. Right. And so I think remembering your origin, I don't know, do you watch Hero Academia, My Hero Academia?
Yeah, my background wasn't changed. You would see I have a poster of Deku on my wall from Displate.
Oh, then what All Might always says, remember your origin, right? You got to
Yeah.
remember, where you came from. And that's so true because you'll forget. Because the day to
Mm.
day will, whether it's fun, whether it's bad, you'll forget. You'll forget the past. And sometimes when you forget it, it'll lead you astray. And you will, then you start getting an internal feeling saying, something's not right.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not happy. I have some frustrations. And it's because you forgot what your original goal was and you're not aligned with it. And your subconscious knows, but up, you just like, I just can't place my finger on it. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to always remember your goal and to set kind of like mile markers as well.
Y'all, are y'all writing this down? Are y'all these are gems. We're talking about a man that travels between Japan and Minnesota with his own business, translating languages, making video games. You hear that mindset? These are some of and it's funny. The mental struggle, man, sometimes is so real. I think about some of my own personal hurdles and everything you just said I connect with because I had to learn, through my mistakes. But you made a very good point when you talk about those milestones and remembering the reason why you did this in the first place. It makes it so easier, and the real thing, another thing you're really gonna get from this, y'all, is when
Mm-hmm.
you have those things, it makes the bad days a lot better. You don't want to be lost and not knowing what you're doing and having a bad day. That
Yes.
feels really bad because it's like, what is going on? My life is over. I don't know what direction I'm going in. What is happening? But now when I have bad days, I'm like, well, that sucked. All right, well, let me just push this milestone up a little bit. All right, we can still do this. And then the other thing you can do, look back at what you've accomplished up until now. I
Yes.
think I think we beat ourselves up too much sometimes and we forget how much work we've done
Mm-hmm.
because how often do we truly celebrate these achievements? Like, you worked with Square Enix, man. Like, I got some of this stuff right over there right now. Like, that's I don't know, some people watch it like, what are they talking about? It's a video game company, y'all. But that's just amazing. What do you do to celebrate your success?
That wow, okay. That's actually that might be something I might be lacking in. I have to admit, but I think it's important to have a community,
Yes.
right? And have that community hold you accountable, but also to celebrate your victories. So, one thing I usually try to do is that maybe I don't do it enough, but Facebook, I'm always trying to update the people who are, my community, both Minnesota and Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to my family, I talk to my friends, and I try to make a community where I'm like, hey, these are the things that I'm up to, right? So even if it's like 2 to 3 guys, they're just like, oh, Mac, I remember like 1 month ago you said you're gonna do this project. How's that going?
Yeah.
And they keep up with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll take me out to like maybe a lunch or coffee, and they care. So I think
Right.
it's important because you as an individual, right? Sometimes you'll say, "Oh, I hit my goal." You clap for yourself and you're like, "Okay, next one."
Yep.
And so it's important to have a community that supports you, and to also celebrate your goals as well. So of course, celebrate your own goals. I don't know how you do it. Sometimes I buy a cake, be like, "Yeah, great job, man."
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. Definitely, you do need to do a better job because you're doing something amazing, man. Like, people that look like us. I mean, how many people do you see that look like us in your field?
Oh, not many. Yeah.
That's like me. That's like me as
Like
a
I don't even have
teacher.
to think about that. I was like, nope,
Yeah.
nope.
You go to the conference, you be like, one, two, yeah, that's it. Three of us, and these thousands of people. That's how I feel at work sometimes. It's like, oh, I have a lot of black women that I work with this year, but black men, none,
Mm,
man. So definitely pat yourself on the back, treat yourself. Those of you out there working hard, working towards your goals, treat yourself. One thing my boy taught me, shout out to my boy Russell Stewart. He was like, one thing that people don't do, they go to these jobs, we work, or you do whatever in life, you work, and when you get paid, you don't ever really pay yourself. You pay all your bills first, you take care of obligations, you put stuff away from savings, and then the person who did all the work is left with whatever is left over. Now, I'm
yes.
not saying neglect your obligations, but think more about what you want to do for yourself. You got to have balance. You want to take care of your
Hmm.
obligations, but you definitely want to take care of yourself. That's one thing I took from that advice that he gave me, and I definitely do that. It's a video game. I love food, so I'll go get a steak dinner.
Mm,
But I always try to make sure I reward myself because that's one of the things that can knock you off too. Is like, man, I'm doing all this work and you're not reap the benefits. Like, and share with people that you mentioned something else that I love to talk about, which is accountability. When you have a strong community around you and you let them know what you have going on, them
hmm.
questions come, and it's like, oh shoot, let me open this back up and work on this because they asking me about it. Like, sometimes that's what that's what happened when my podcast website, like, it's launched now, but I've
Hmm.
had the domain and been working on it for over a year and a half. But someone asked me about it one day, and I was like, oh shoot, I really need to get this done, and I got it done. So community will hold you accountable. Prepare yourself for it though, y'all. It can be annoying at times, but it's all out of love, y'all. It's all out of
Yes,
love.
exactly.
Oh, Mac, I only got one more question for you, man.
I'm ready.
for the people coming in behind you, where they're thinking about making a major life decision like you made, I would consider that a major life decision, quitting your job and pursuing your passion. Anyone who may be thinking about doing that or is in the middle of pursuing that passion, they've already took the leap and they may be struggling. What words of wisdom do you have for them?
I would say that, you know, it's okay to be afraid and it's okay to move forward with a decision even while still being afraid. And I think for us who are, Black, melanated, we have a fear of what's outside of our comfort zone more so than other people because we know that, hey, if I step out of, I don't want to say line, but, if we step out of a certain boundary,
Yep.
right, what will hit us back is usually quite fatal.
Yeah.
And, that fear really does stop us from traveling, experiencing new things, because even in our own community, right? People will be like, why you're a Black man, why are you going to Asia? Right?
Yeah.
Why are you, oh, I want to go climb a mountain. Why are you climbing a mountain? Why are you doing this? It's just like, because it's there, bro. It's just there.
Oh my god! I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm laughing so hard because I'm on a fitness journey, and all our devices listen to us, and all that's been coming up for the last 3 days are mud runs. And
Oh,
I've done
yeah.
one before, and I'm gonna do another one. There's no Black people in the advertisement, but I've done one before, and they're fun. So when you said that, it made me it made me think of all the reactions I'm gonna get when I post that because I'm gonna do a mud run. But that's funny. But
But it's true.
yeah,
Like, a lot of I don't know. I feel like, Black people are so funny. They're very like extremely creative, but at the
yes,
same time they're very like conservative and like rational. They're
yeah.
like, please explain to me why you would pay all that money to run in mud. You're just like, you gotta sit and think, be like, let me get back to you. Let me.
The only way you can really answer that question, and the reason why everyone pretty much does whatever it is that they do when it comes to stuff that others don't understand,
Yes,
experience. You want the
exactly.
experience. The first time I did it, I was like, is this as hard as they're making it look?
Hmm.
Yes, it was. Especially when you're out of shape. This time it'll probably be easier. The obstacles aren't that bad, but yeah. Oh, that's too funny, man. But
Um,
great words of wisdom there for sure, for
yeah.
sure.
So, definitely, like you said, experience. So, if you want to go to Japan, I think my best thing, sorry, I'll add in one more, is that take it in smaller doses, right? So maybe start watching some documentaries on being Black in Japan. There's actually a podcast or a video podcast that does, look at Jap or Black people in Japan, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
tons of content on YouTube, and so that's one way to kind of live vicariously through other Black people in case you have that fear. Another one is, I don't know, read a book. There's many different ways to have different experiences. Maybe find a local Japanese town in your area.
Mm-hmm.
Try practicing with chopsticks. Here in Japan, we have a Japanese American association. They have like different festivals. Like just go and
Nice.
experience it. So that's one thing you can do in terms of getting that experience without having to dive in like a full commitment.
I'm glad you said that. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing those experiences. I'm going to add a little bit to that, y'all, and say whatever it is you're trying to do, there are resources out there for you.
Mm,
Tap into them resources. A lot of times they're free or discounted for you, especially when you're doing this kind of stuff. There's stuff out there for minorities and things like that. So make sure you tap into those resources and use them. That's what they're for. People build these organizations for people like you who want to make these types of decisions. So you definitely want to tap into those resources. Mac, before I let you go, man, first of all, thank you again for joining us here on International Black Men Day. Do you have anything that you would like to promote that everyone needs to check out?
I mean, I have so many things, but I'll just I'll keep it real short. So, Melanated Game Kitchen. I'm assuming we'll post the link later, but
Yeah.
like I said, it's a 2 week game jam with melanated people who want to create content for the culture, by the culture, and it's usually every quarter. So the next one will probably be coming up in maybe September or October. And then the other one that I have is called Legacy Foundation Japan. And what Legacy Foundation Japan does, it's an organization in Japan, but they have a network all across the African diaspora. And what they do is that they connect the African community to the Japanese community. So we have lots of different events. And we even have like kind of like history events where it talks about the relationship between like Africa and Japan, which is actually a lot more deeper than we realize. So, and of course, if you know
Wow.
Yasuke, right? I mean, don't the anime, don't think about the anime. But the Yasuke, that's a good example. But there's many examples of Black people and Japanese people coming together throughout history. So those are my two main things.
I need to rewatch that. I didn't know what you were talking about until that's on Netflix, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's on Netflix. I forget buddy's name that does the voice, but okay. Thank you for sharing that. Y'all make sure y'all check that out. Hope you have been enjoying International Black Man Day. I hope you got some gems, some jewels, some advice, and some motivation to pursue your passion. And don't be afraid to be different. Mac and I did not know each other before this meeting, and look at how much that we have in common. A lot. I'm gonna connect with this brother. I want to work on these video games with him, and I want to learn some Japanese phrases so I can impress the
Whoop,
kids at
whoop.
school because they always talk about anime, and I'm like, but they don't know the language, and neither do I. So I need to have one up on them. But hey, and don't forget to build that community and pour into your community. All right,
Yes.
that's all I got. We could go on forever. That's all we got, man. Continue to enjoy International Black Man Day, and until next time, peace out, y'all.
Bye.